Hey everyone, it's Brenda Meller with Meller Marketing, bringing you back for another edition of Social Media Pie. This is my LinkedIn Live interview series, and I've got a three-time guest. I think, Jan, you might be the only person to date that I've invited back as many times because I've always had such a great conversation. But look who I've got here today, guys. Jan Griffiths. Hey, Jan, how you doing?
I'm great, Brenda. I'm honored to be on your show 3 times.
Do you remember Saturday Night Live? They used to have this like the people that would come back as the return guests. They would joke about getting them a blazer or something. So if I had a pie blazer, you'd be the first person to wear that blazer, Jan. So awesome. Well, we're looking forward to having the conversation here today, guys. And I want to say welcome, good morning or good afternoon, depending on wherever in the world you are watching from. And I want to invite you guys, could you do me a favor? Drop a comment below. And if you're kind of struggling with this live video and how do I leave a comment and not lose the feed, this is my hack. Okay, if you're watching the live feed on your laptop, this is what you want to do. Go find it on your phone. Go to the Brenda Meller LinkedIn account. You should find the activity feed there. And that way you can leave comments on your phone and not disrupt the live feed that's going on your desktop. So that's my little hack. So while we get into the conversation here today, what I'd like to do is, Jan, while I'm pulling up the comments, and I'm already seeing some of our lab partners. I see Carolyn. There's some other folks that are going to be on here too. I'm going to start pulling in their comments and welcome them. But Jan, why don't you take a few minutes, tell us a little bit about who you are, what Gravitas Detroit is all about, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. Well, my name is Jan Griffiths, and I'm from Wales. I am not from England, and I've had a wonderful career in the automotive industry, both in supply chain, manufacturing, sales, you name it. And I achieved my ideal job in the C-suite, and then I left it. And I started my own business 2 years ago. Gravitas Detroit. I love, love, love leadership, authentic leadership, and I am bound and determined to create the leaders of the future down a path of authentic leadership. And then, as if that wasn't enough, in January, I decided to start a podcast called Finding Gravitas. And every 2 weeks, I put up a leader in really not one particular industry or another, but in several different industries, talking about how they practice authentic leadership. And of course, Brenda, as you well know, you can't lead others until you know how to lead yourself.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So I know you've learned a lot. I mean, I see you as such an inspirational leader yourself, Jan, too, on all the work that you're doing and all the I've heard so many of your stories too, because I've listened to your podcast and I've heard about your background, and you're such an inspirational person. And so January you started this podcast, and then how long after that was it that you created this accountability lab? What's the background there?
Well, when the pandemic hit, as you well know, my business, there's a lot of keynote speaking events when you're in a room with hundreds of people, and then face-to-face coaching of corporate teams in the room together. So when COVID hit, my business that I had worked so hard to create was wiped out overnight.
Oh.
And it's okay. You know, it's true what they say, right? It's not what happens to you in life, it's how you respond to it and how you view it.
Right.
And I felt sorry for myself for a couple of days, I'm not going to lie. And I found that I had trouble getting out of bed in the morning, and I'm a morning person. I'm a farmer's daughter. I was born to be a morning person. And so I had trouble, and I would hit the snooze, and then I was glued to the TV watching the death counter. You know, we all went through that sort of grief process, didn't we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And it was a bit like it's a traumatic event. So you want to try to obtain information because you're trying to process it and understand how is this affecting me, and how much of, and in the beginning, we didn't know what the risk was. We didn't know, really what this thing was and how deathly was it, and, how fast is it going to spread. And we were trying to soak up information, but then you get like information overload, right? And that starts to kind of shut you down and freezes you up, right? From taking additional actions.
Exactly. You freeze, right? And because you don't know, you don't know what to do. You don't know how to process it. Mm-hmm. So I decided, I said, you know what? There's got to be other people out there who are feeling this way. There must be. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay, I'm just going to get a group of people together, and we're going to get up really early in the morning, and we're going to figure out how to get through this together. It's about keeping each other moving forward. I was afraid that I would freeze and even worse, spiral downward. And I know we've all felt that at some time or another during the pandemic. So honestly, I would say that my initial reaction, it was a little bit selfish, right? Because I wanted to keep myself going. And I love people. I love teams. I love people around me. And I thought, well, if we could get through this together, I could help other people too. And so that's what we did. I talked to my friend Anita Cable, who, as you well know, who's a established member of the First Lab. And I talked to her a little bit about it, and she said, yeah, that's a good idea. So I threw it out on social media, and a couple of people joined us, and it has grown. And now we're in week 39.
Wow. It's crazy to think. And I remember, and I just put a little comment below because I see a lot of our lab partners. I didn't see Anita's name. So somebody go tell Anita we're talking about her right now. So it's crazy because at the beginning of every week, Jan, and I give you so much credit, Jan, because at the beginning of these calls, 6:30 in the morning, we are just like literally rolled out of bed. Hair's not done. I got like makeup smeared under my eyes. We got the pajamas on. We're throwing a sweater on because we're on video during this call, right? Yeah. But Jan is on, and she's like on at 6:30. She's like, "Good morning. It's week 39," and she's like your cheerleader of cheerleaders at the beginning of the call. But I just love the enthusiasm. And I remember, Jan, when I first saw you posting about this at the beginning of the year, when you were like announcing this, I'm like, what are those crazy people doing? They're going to do a 6:30 phone call. That's insane. And I heard, my friend Shauna, who's watching right now, she was a part of it. And I was talking to her, and she was saying how she started her day with this accountability lab. And that's kind of what we're here to talk about. Why you want to start your day on the right foot with, whether it's an accountability lab or, creating a to-do list or different things. Why do we do the things that we're doing? And Shauna told me about how much of an impact it had on her. And I was like, you guys, I'm not a morning person, but I was feeling what Jan was feeling, that creep of the darkness coming in. And it was forcing me to stay up later and later at night because I was getting stressed about my business, my future, my family, and getting up later and later in the morning. And I'm like, I didn't like the cycle I was in terms of that sleep. And I'm like, you know what, Shauna, I'm going to come check it out. But I'm going to come check it out once. That's it. I'm just curious. And Jan, that once is now turned in, I don't know how many weeks continually I'm on it, but amazing. So I just have to commend you on the concept.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, it's true what they say, right? It's the simple things that are the most effective. And I've always been a firm believer that how you set up your day, how you start your day in the morning determines how your day will go. Mm-hmm. And it starts with mindset, getting your head in the right place. And I just read a Forbes article that talks about, I think it was like the 5 habits of most successful people. Mm-hmm. And a continuous theme that I see coming through is mindset. And if you roll out of bed in the morning and you just get right into your email, grab a cup of coffee and go, you haven't given your mind a chance to set, to really establish the intent for the day. And here's what happens, right? When we get a mood, right? Our intent that we set establishes the mood that we've got in the day. If your mood isn't right, people sense that, and that determines how people respond to you, which can either elevate your day or totally send it in the other direction. So getting that mindset right and feeling good and maybe hitting the reset button really early in the morning can set your day up for success or disaster.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit. I know because I'm on the call, but tell us a little bit about what happens on the call. What's the structure? Tell us a little bit about the questions, walk us through that.
Of course. So the structure, again, is very simple. We commit to 3 things. The first thing is a work task. And I am not talking about these big projects that we have in front of us. The whole idea is small steps of improvement every single day. Incremental steps of improvement. And I learned this, I've learned this through life itself and my leadership journey, but who really brought the point home to me was Nick Norris. He's a Navy SEAL and CEO of Protect Products in San Diego that I interviewed on the podcast. And I said, you're a Navy SEAL, you do all these extreme sports. He ran the rim to rim, which I think is like 53 miles. And I said, how do you do that? How do you, when your head tells you, I don't want to do it, I'm done, I've gone far enough, and those excuses creep into your mind, How do you overcome that? And he said, oh, easy. I'm going, okay, great. I've got to hear this, right?
Yeah.
Just small little incremental steps of improvement. I run a little bit further every single day. And I thought, wow, that's so powerful. But if you get your head in the right place, that you want to get a little bit better every day, and you do it and it becomes a habit, then great things happen. So one of the first thing that we do is to set the work task. And I do not believe in to-do lists and task lists. I've used them, for many, many years in the corporate world, and they do nothing but make you feel bad, because I'd love to meet the person who consistently does every single thing on their task list every day. I'd love to meet them. I don't think they exist. If they do, they're not human, right? So somebody's going to respond to that.
Well, I've got like my Post-it. I'm like a Post-it note person, and I will literally, if you look at my desktop, my wall, I've got like Post-it notes. I like to list, but this is kind of like a bite-sized chunk list. I can only put, so many words on here, but I agree. It can feel kind of overwhelming.
Yes, and what we have a tendency to do is we like to check off the little things on the task list so that we get that feeling of accomplishment, and we get a dopamine hit, which makes us feel good, right? And so we look at a task list, and we often do the little things first, and that is wrong, because then you lose the day, and then you don't have time to do the big thing, and then you push it to the next day and the next day and the next day, and you never do the big thing. So if you schedule a big thing early on, just schedule it, put it in your schedule, then do the little stuff on the task list later and say, okay, my intention today is I'm going to make progress on the big thing
right
at this time of day. And you put it in your schedule. There's a much greater chance of success than if you work on all the little stuff. And I found that to be true. And I know we all have experienced that in the lab. And that's what we talk about. So that's step one is the work task and how we schedule work. Then the second thing is a personal task. We're human beings, and particularly now in the pandemic, it can't all be work, do. You've got to drink water in the day. You've got to do yoga, do some meditation, go for a walk, do something for yourself. And again, if you don't schedule it, it doesn't happen. And
hold on, I got to do my personal task here. Hold on. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, you're really good. You're one of the inspirational people about the hydration and drinking water. And as you know, these are some of the things that we talk about in the lab. And then we all set out one word for our mindset. So we go through these three things every day. Then the next day we come back and we say either yes, we accomplished it, or no, we didn't. And maybe a little bit of conversation about why. And here's where the magic is. And remember, this is not an accountability group where it's a corporate environment and it's like, I'm going to stick my finger in your eye. If you don't get it done, you're a failure. You're a pathetic excuse for a human being. That's not what this is. This is about being honest with yourself. And saying, you know what, yesterday, as if you saw my social media yesterday, I gave myself an excuse all week that it was too cold to go for a walk. I couldn't do that yesterday.
It was too cold, though. It's very cold in Michigan right now.
There you go. See, that too cold. What is that? That's a story that you're putting in your head. It is not too cold for human beings outside. Is it pleasant? Maybe not. But it was bloody cold. I'm not going to lie. But I did it. I pushed through that excuse that I told myself. So when you have to come back to the lab the next day, we talk about it, we sometimes joke about it, but you're not going to come back on day 3 or day 4 and say that you didn't do it.
Right.
And it's not because somebody's yelling at you or somebody's going to give you a horrible performance review or you're afraid of upsetting the boss or the people you work with. There's none of that. This is a group, a community of support and encouragement. So we talk about what's happening and we use the power of peer pressure in a positive way. When you think of peer pressure, what do you think of? Let's see in the chat. Let's see. When I say peer pressure, what do you think of? What do people think of?
And guys, there's about a 30-second delay from the time we ask a question until the comments come up in chat. So while we're waiting for those questions to come in, I want to point out something. You guys know I'm a big marketing, background person and everything, and Jan is as well. And when I first came into the webinar, the live stream today, I noticed like my brand colors and Jan's brand colors were competing. Did you notice that? Like my pink and her red are just like not on the same color spectrum. So I changed it out. I made it gray for today. So I'm kind of like flipping it over here. But yeah, I'm kind of curious, when you think about peer pressure, what are you thinking? And we'll drop your comments up here as we keep the conversation going. But Rachel is agreeing, cold makes me ache. But I do have to say though, Jan, and I mentioned this in our call, I don't know if it was last week, but I went for a walk, and it was like when I was outside, it was so cold. It was like, it reminded me of like a York peppermint patty commercial. It was so cold. But it was actually refreshing after you get your blood going. It's like, wow, it's cold, but it's like you're feeling the elements of nature around you, right?
Yeah.
So I see peer pressure. Here's one from Carolyn. Brenda calling me out publicly. This was not a bad thing, Carolyn. She was a part of our group, right? And she kind of fell out, and she came into a LinkedIn Live one day, and I was like, Carolyn, we've missed you. You got to come out into the session. And then Pat is saying shaming, when it thinks about peer pressure, we're thinking about shaming. Joy, look at all our group partners here. Joy saying changing who you are to conform to someone else's view. So any comments on that, Jan?
Yeah, and that's what it is. When we think about peer pressure, right, we typically think of the negative, right? We think of, maybe somebody encourage you to drink or go to a party or do something you don't want to do, or do something you don't want to do. Thank you, Rachel. Yes. But this is peer pressure in a positive sense, because we don't like to fail. It's okay to fail, but we don't like to make a commitment, and you're making a verbal commitment out there to a group of people and then come back and say you're not doing it. Right. So, it's very important that we don't lie to ourselves or to the group. So it really is okay to fail. And as you know, many times I've come on there and I've said, epic fail. I didn't do what I said I was going to do. And it's all okay. But here's the thing. It's a growth mindset. It's about that desire to help each other to get a little bit better every day. Mm-hmm. And that's what we do. And one of the things I'm doing right now is I'm trying to, there's I shouldn't use that word, trying. I want to quit sugar after dinner. And so I keep a counter. So on the Zoom call where you can rename yourself, I have my counter. So it says my name, and then it says the number of days that I've been sugar-free after dinner of 21. Because I want to go
now. What day are you on now?
I'm back to 2. I fell off the wagon.
It takes some time to get there, because you're reestablishing a pattern of behavior that you're not used to, right?
Exactly. So the pattern of behavior is a great comment, because that's what we're doing. We're really creating a new habit, and the way that the quality of our lives is totally dependent on the habits that we form. And so many times we read, like I read that Fortune article about the habits of highly successful people. We read them and we go, oh yeah, that's good. I should do that, right? Yeah, I should drink more water. Yeah, I should get up early. Yeah, I should make a commitment. Yeah, I should have a mindset. And we might do it for a day or two, and then we don't do it. It's like gym membership, right? Yeah. It falls off after February. Why is that? Because we give ourselves excuses. Mm-hmm. And if you tell yourself you're going to do something, there's about a 14% chance that you'll do it. Yeah. If you write it down, that number goes to about 45. When you make a commitment and you verbalize it to other people, it's 85% or higher.
Wow.
You will achieve it. And that's the power of peer pressure in a positive sense, and the fact that what we do is a supportive community. It's a community of support, and that's where the magic happens. That's the difference.
There's even something that happens within the lab too, like when we say, I'm going to try to, and you catch yourself doing it, you're like, no, I'm not going to try. I am going to. And then sometimes we kind of learn and we relearn. So I might say, I want to send out 5 proposals today. And then I get on the call yesterday. I'm like, well, that wasn't reasonable. So I amended my work task. I got 1 proposal out, right? Or we help each other. Like I learned one of the techniques from Diane, who's one of the group members. I was like really struggling with this one big task. And she's like, hey, try a 30-10 sprint.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's that? And she's like, well, set your timer, 30 minutes, you work on that work project. You just keep head down, keep working on it. When the timer goes off, take a 10-minute break. Go get a piece of chocolate, walk around, go put the seed in the bird feeder, do something, then come back to it and do 30-10 sprints. And I did that on a couple of projects, and I was like, wow, it actually worked. Because and then sometimes it's like a little bit of therapy, like, why am I not getting this done? Why did I not drink more water? That's the easiest in the world to do. Why did I not drink more water? What are techniques? And then we like, well, do you have a bottle in front of you? And is it flavored water? And we're helping each other, right, Jan, with the task.
Exactly. And that's why we changed the name to a lab, because we experiment with different things to help with personal accountability. And personal accountability is exactly that. It's personal. It's how you talk to yourself in your head. And it starts with self-awareness. And in the group, there's no judgment. You got to be fully transparent, and you got to be honest. And as Brenda said, when you rolling in front of the camera at 6:30 in the morning, you're transparent, all right.
Yeah, we look a little different right now, don't we, Jan?
Yeah, we do. We look much better now than we did at 6:30 this morning.
I was thinking that this morning. I had like hair pulled back, and we get gussied up when we're in front of the camera. We're on stage right now, right, on the virtual stage, and we're a little different. But it's also kind of a description of who we are on the calls, because we're not on in that same sense. I think you're on. I feel like you're always on, but the rest of us are kind of like, oh, is she gonna call on me until we wake up? But then it gets to your turn, and you're like, okay, what did I say I was gonna do yesterday? Did I do it? And it's a bit of like on this episode of the Accountability Lab, like, right, if you miss a day, you don't just miss a day, you miss out on so much. You're missing out on stories, you're missing out on inspiration, you're missing out on that day of getting into that habit of doing something. And lately we've been talking about, if you miss a day, and I joke about Joy, who's one of our group members. Like, I'm laying in bed and my alarm goes off at 6:20, and I'm like, oh, I'm going back to bed. And I can hear Joy going, well, Brenda, you missed one day already this week. If you miss another day, you're going to get into that pattern. And I'm like, fine. I get up, and then I get on the call and I tell Joy about it. But we are learning techniques within the group, and it is changing our patterns of behavior. I'm curious, Jan, how has the group changed you? I know how it's changed me. How has it changed you?
It has certainly helped me become more accountable, because I like to live in the creative space. I don't like, one of the traits of authentic leadership is consistency, and I'm not good at that, and routine. I don't like routines and consistency. So it has forced me, because I made a commitment to this group to make sure that I am on that call every single morning. So it's really helped me with areas that I needed help with, selfishly, and now I do it, and it's a new habit now, because it takes 66 days, they say, to form a new habit. Well, we're way past that. So the habit is there, and I love it, and I love seeing group 2. We've opened another lab at 7:07 in the morning Eastern time, and that's on week 4, and that's starting to grow, and seeing that group come together. And then another one opens January 4th on the West Coast. A colleague that I worked with many years ago reached out to me and said, please, please, please open one of these in Pacific time. And I said, okay. So now there's 3.
So what time is that one running at? What time is that on Eastern time zone for the one that's in Pacific?
Pacific's going to be 7:37 a.m. Pacific. So that's 10:37 a.m. for Eastern time. So for those people, because not everybody is a morning person. Right. And for those people who like to have a little later start, if they want to join the Pacific time one, at 10:37 Eastern, they can do that too.
Okay, so you're given, and you could even have somebody who's on the East Coast joining the Pacific group too, or are you trying to keep it? Okay, that's kind of nice. Yeah. Now we talked about the work task, the work projects. So tell us a little bit about some of the personal tasks that people are putting on the group, and what, in your opinion, what makes for a good personal task, or is there no rating on that? Can it be anything?
It's just something that breaks the work up, and we're all sitting at home. We're on a lot of Zoom calls. Gyms are closed for the most part. So making sure that we take care of our mind and our body is really important, because you can't be successful at the work tasks if you're dehydrated, if you don't get enough sleep, if your head's not in the right place, and if you're stiff, if you've been sitting too long.
Yeah.
So I think, one thing that I'm doing a lot more of, really because of Joy's influence in the group, is yoga.
Yeah.
And I'm really liking that. The stretching is good. And I love to run in the mornings. I really miss Orange Theory. I love that. I used to go to the 5 a.m. class. So now I use the Peloton app, and I like to run in the morning with a couple of my favorite trainers on the Peloton app. So I think it's whatever is right for you. There's no right or wrong. There is just this definite need to commit to something for yourself every single day.
I love it. And even within the yoga, like, we've learned little techniques they're kind of like cheats or hacks, right?
Yeah.
So I, back in the summer, I found, like, I want to work out first thing in the morning. I go for a power walk, I get my hand weights, or, I want to do something outside. And some mornings I'm like, well, I'm in front of the computer, and then I get going on the email and I don't do it. So I would, like, before the call, I would have my workout clothes in the bathroom. So as soon as the call was done, I would go change into them and then get on the road right away. And then it was like, once the weather started getting cold, I'm like, well, I want to do yoga, and the yoga mat's like right there. So like one day I was like, you know what, my personal is to open up the yoga mat today. That's it. Like, I just got a new one in the mail. I'm just going to open it up because it's been sitting in a box for a week now, and it's just going to open it up. And then once I opened it, I actually pulled it out and did some work. And then there's another day I'm like, you know what, I'm just this is another Joy technique. Joy is beautiful. And when it comes to yoga, just lay on a yoga mat. That counts as exercise, because it's kind of meditation, right? And it's stretching your back, if I'm remembering correctly too.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about incremental steps of improvement, because what we tend to do, we say things like, oh, I'm going to work out 5 days a week. And then we don't. And then we feel bad because we failed, and we're hard on ourselves, right? But what if we said, you know what, I'm just going to do 10 minutes or even 5 minutes on the treadmill 3 days a week? Right. That's much more palatable, much more realistic, and then just get incrementally better, a little bit better every single day. And before you know it, you probably surpass the original goal that you had. But it's that self-awareness and being good to yourself and building on those successes. That's what it's all about.
One other thing I learned from the group too, Jan, is there's some people that are like counting their steps, like, how many steps did I walk today? And this is something I didn't even know. I think somebody from the group taught me this, but if you have an iPhone, which I have, there's a health app in here, and it counts your steps. Like, if you carry your phone with you around the house, it counts your steps. I didn't even know that. So one goal I made was, like, I want to walk more steps today than I did yesterday. And if you do that Monday through Friday, I mean, it becomes a little bit more of a challenge. I found, like, there were some weeks where I had to, at the end of the day, I was going up and down the stairs of my house to get my steps in, because I wanted to get on the call the next day and say, I did it. I walked more steps today over tomorrow. So some little personal things. And then I want to start to open this up to conversation to others. And I'm asking you guys to drop your questions or comments below as we do that. But I also want to the third category was mindset. So give us kind of an overview. What are some examples of mindsets that people have incorporated on the call as their one word?
Well, as humans, our energy level changes every single day. And we're taught in the corporate world to just ignore that and push through it. And you got to come in and charge hard every day, right? That's totally unrealistic. That's not how we operate as human beings. There are days when your energy is strong and you feel focused, and it's probably your mindset might be drive. It might be drive, focus. It might be energy. That might be your mindset for the day. And then there are days when you need to take it a little easier. You just know that it's probably better to move at a steadier pace. Your mindset might be flow, steady. There are days when you might feel that you need to hit the reset button. You might need to organize. Organize is a word for your mindset. But you get to choose it. There is no right and wrong. It's what you believe that you want to hold, an intention and a mindset that you want to hold that day. And it helps you, once you verbalize it, you say it out loud to the group of people, it helps you hold that mindset throughout the day.
That's good. And I love it too, because you might be on the call feeling like not productive, like you're not making progress. And then you kind of say, my mindset today is productive. So you're kind of announcing it to the group. or you might be kind of feeling down about things or feeling like people around you are stressed out. And, as a parent, we kind of commiserate sometimes on children and family and things like that. And I kind of feel like today I just want peace. I want harmony within my family. Or today I need to be a caregiver. So my mindset is focusing on others for the day. So it may not be a word, but I kind of extend it to a phrase. But that's kind of what I need to do for today. I need to focus on that from a mindset. Do you remember what your 3 were for today? I don't know if you want to share with the group or not. I'm putting you on the spot on this one. Do you remember what your 3 were for this morning?
Steady today.
Steady? What's your mindset? What about your work task and your personal task?
My work task is to listen to a podcast episode and do the show notes.
Very good.
My personal task is to get the Christmas cards out for Wales, and I am right on the edge of the timeline, and I have not done that. I haven't done either of them yet, but knowing that I'm going to be on the call tomorrow morning having to report out on these.
Right. You're going to want to get it done.
I'll do it. And we've often said, Brenda, about 6 o'clock at night when you might say, oh, I'm done for the day. It gives you that extra little nudge to do the task so that you can come to the call the next day and say, okay, I did it.
Right. No, it is. And I even find it's the same thing. It's like whenever your wind down starts for the night, you're kind of going through mentally sometimes like, what do I need to do for tomorrow? I'm like, I told them I was going to set up, I've got a puzzle behind me. Do you see it? I've got a puzzle I need to get. I told them I was going to start working on my puzzle. I want to get my puzzle started for tonight or whatever it is. And sometimes it's like, I woke up in the morning at 6:20 and I was like, I didn't drink enough water.
Yeah.
I'm guzzling the water before I get on the call. And then I say, hey, it was within the 24-hour period.
That's right.
Check the box.
Yeah, that's right. And because there are no real rules around this, right? This is it's a group of people who want to get better every single day. So we have fun with it.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. And I think that's important. It is something I look forward to every day, not just because Joy's voice is in my head saying, you missed already once this week, but it's also, I look forward to being on the call with you, Jan, and I love the inspiration. It does put us in the right frame of energy for the day. It is really an important part to have accountability. So as we move into Q&A and comments right now, I'm seeing a lot of group members that are on the call. It was Anita though that you called out earlier. It wasn't Ann. So I'm looking to see if Anita showed up, because if not, we're gonna let her know we were talking about here on the show today.
Yeah.
Rachel says she really likes the 30-10 idea. Any other tips for us, Jan, on those big work tasks and how to make them more manageable?
Yeah, just break them down and schedule time to work on them. Don't put them out there as a task on a task list. Say you're going to work on it at a certain point each day and just make a little bit of progress every day or every other day. That is the way to knock out the big tasks. Because sometimes the big tasks, the reason they're big tasks is that we push them off, right? Mm-hmm. And I do it. I have to catch myself too. And I say, okay, no, I'm going to just work a little bit on that today. And then all of a sudden you look around, you go, wow, I'm halfway done with that big task that I've been avoiding.
Right. Because if you do one thing every day, working towards that big task, at the end of the year, you're going to have 365 steps that you've made towards getting it done. And I'd kind of like to throw it out to the group here, Jan, and maybe you could remind us. I'm going to ask people that are watching if they can give us their 3 things for the day. So can you remind us what those 3 items were, and we'll see if we can ask them to add that into chat.
The 3 things for the day?
Yes.
Yeah. So their task, their work task, their personal task, and their mindset.
Okay. And for people that are watching the show late, can you give us a couple of examples of each? So what's an example, Jan, of like a work task that someone could put in?
Getting a proposal out to a client, having a call with a supplier, scheduling a meeting with somebody that you've been avoiding. That happens. That could be a work task, because we don't ask people to give to give specific details, because and maybe, Brenda, this is a good point too, to talk about the diversity, right? The diversity in the group is unbelievable, because there's no requirement for entry. So there's no bias that can sneak in to the, if you will, the recruiting process, right? The only requirement is that you well-intentioned and you want to improve yourself and be part of this group of people. That's it. So we've got presidents of PR firms, we've got unemployed people, we've got recruiters, we've got sales directors, we've got entrepreneurs, we've got, I mean, people all over the map. All different backgrounds. I mean, the diversity is incredible. And I really love to see that.
Yeah, it's good because you learn from different backgrounds too. Like I learned techniques from the sales director that you're referring to, but I also learned from the people that are in career transition. I learned from the technical person in the group. I mean, I learned yoga. I mean, we learned different things from each other. So work task, and I'm waiting to see, I think some comments are coming in. So give us a couple of reminders too of what's an example of a personal task that people could commit to for today.
Go for a walk, help somebody else out, do something for somebody else. Go grocery shopping is a personal task. It's got to be done.
Could a personal task be something that is self-care? Could it be, I'm going to eat a brownie and reward myself after getting my work task done? Or, you know, can it be, I'm going to take a hot bath tonight? Yeah. Or does it have to be something that is healthy and productive?
No, I think it has to be something that breaks the work mindset. You've got to break away and do something for yourself. And we don't like to put rules around it because it's whatever's right for you, but it's about making a commitment to doing something and doing it because that makes you feel better and then you build on the success.
Good point. And Andrea has a question, Jan. Do we write our things down or do you just verbalize them? What's your advice for people?
Some people need to write it down and like to write it down, and that's okay. I don't. That's just not who I am. There's no formal structure in the group. If you want to write it down, That's great. But there's no requirement. There's no workbook or anything like that. You know, this is just, you come with your heart and your mind in the right place. And then, of course, because it's every single day, right, we're able to follow up. People typically don't forget. Every once in a while we will forget, but we typically don't forget. And then there's no judgment, too. So if something's going on one day and you can't make it, that nobody ever has to apologize. I don't ever expect anybody to send me an email to say why they can't join. This isn't work. This is about personal accountability.
Yeah, but it is a place where if there's a group member who comes on a regular basis and then they stop coming and none of us have heard from them, we're all like, what happened to Shauna? We haven't seen her in a while. And we're reaching out. And I don't know who it was that said it's not just an accountability group, but you're also accounted for, which is something, this can be isolating, right? Do you remember who it was that said that within the group?
Yeah, it was Joy, because there's so many people right now who are struggling and not feeling part of the team because they're not in the office. And they're really missing that environment. And it's a great connection point for people who need to connect with others on a daily basis. And it's less than half an hour, right? So it's not like another hour-long Zoom meeting. It's just a quick hit and we're off and running with our day.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I see so many great comments that are coming in on chat here. And I'll make sure to give Jan the link so you can read some of these coming back here later. But hopefully we've inspired you guys. And I know you have the group that I'm a part of, the 6:30 group is closed, right? You're not taking any more people in that group.
Right.
And some people might be like, I'm not getting up at 6:30.
Yeah.
But I did see one comment so far from Raju on here. It sounds like a great group, might be worth a try. So Jan, can you tell us a little bit about if someone is interested, where can they learn more about the group?
Yeah, just message me on LinkedIn, and I'm very glad to. We had a guest today. We had a guest join the 707 group today, just to get a sense of it and check it out. There's a bit more information in detail on my website that you can look at. But just reach out to me directly. I'm happy to talk to you and see if it's right for you. And if it is, come join us. And there's no long-term contract or any sort of painful documentation or commitment, right? This is about helping people. And if it doesn't work for you, you're out. There's no hard feelings. It's all okay.
Yeah. And I was going to ask a question too, because, you're talking earlier about there's no worksheets or, you know, manual or anything we have to fill out or anything. And we also, like, if you get on the call and day after day, if you're like, yeah, I didn't do my work task, I didn't do my personal task. I mean, at some point, you're not going to kick people out, Jan, but I think you're also going to ask the question, Brenda, why aren't you getting your things done, right?
Yeah, and then we end up having a one-on-one call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If somebody's really struggling with something, then, or if we see people really going downhill and just having a hard time, you know, then I'll set up a one-on-one call with them to see what's really driving that and help them through it.
That's awesome. And I love that part of it too. You're a part of a group, but you're a human being, and you're making that outreach to people. And even within the group, we might, I think I've talked to just about everybody in the group one-on-one, outside of the group as well. If not through the group messages, through email or phone call, you know, sometimes Zoom calls and things like that too. So it really is helping people to connect. And I'm going to pull your LinkedIn URL up on the screen here right now, Jan. And I have to say, I love you're so consistent with your branding. Guys, look at this right now. She's got her headshot photo has been updated. She's got her branded header that's behind her in the video session, which matches the color of her branding. Everything has just really come together for Gravitas Detroit. I'm just, as a marketer, I just love seeing like all the consistent branding. So I really just commend you on that.
Yeah, and let's not forget the water bottles, which seem to have tickled you. You're like,
oh my gosh, you guys, you know you've made it when you have a branded water bottle with your company name on it. You don't have one nearby right now, do you, Jan?
Oh, you know what? I don't.
I'm putting you on the spot.
I did a team event, a leadership day with an engineering team last week, Thursday, and it was so nice to put them out, you know, on the table. And I think of Brenda every time I look at those bottles.
Isn't it funny how like there's little things like that? And I found within the group too, there's little things that every time I pull out my yoga mat, I think of Jan. Every time I'm doing the 30-10, I think of Diane. I mean, there's so many things that we associate within the group. But the water bottle thing, it's funny how it's a big deal. I mean, I'm talking about like a clear plastic water bottle that you can, you know, you can order these custom labels, or you can get like promotional items made. That is a pretty big deal. That when you get to that level of branding your own materials for your company, I think that's a fun kind of milestone to celebrate.
It was great, and it was for the launch of the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a fun party, because I even went crazy, as you well know, being an entrepreneur. I was blowing up the balloons, organizing the food on the plate, doing absolutely everything for that launch party.
It's an exciting, and it's so great that you celebrate milestones of things like that, because sometimes people they run right through it and they don't take the time to celebrate those successes. So I commend you on that. As we start to wrap up the conversation here today, Jan, any kind of final reminders for people? Anything else you want to share as we wrap up the chat?
I would just say this. Be aware and think about how you talk to yourself in your head. What excuses are you giving yourself? And if you want some help and have some fun in the mornings and have a morning routine, come join us.
Awesome. And I'm going to throw the link back up on the web page here again. So gravitasdetroit.com/accountability-lab. I'm actually going to drop this into the LinkedIn Live chat as well. So if you guys want to click on it below, you'll be able to do so before leaving. And if they want to connect with you on LinkedIn, Jan, are you open to connecting with people?
Absolutely.
Do they need to include an invitation, you know, some context, or do you just kind of openly accept, or what's your philosophy?
I will. Obviously, I make sure that it's not somebody trying to sell me something that I really don't need. So as long as it's not a spammy kind of approach, I will accept. And I am usually pretty open. So I know that, Brenda, you train everybody so well to actually put something in the invite, and you're absolutely right. But I will accept invites of people who have not done that.
Yeah, good. Well, I encourage you guys, if you visit Jan's profile, go to linkedin.com/Jan Griffiths. And if you click on connect, and then just include a note, just say, hey, Jan, watched you on live today with Brenda, loved your tips about XYZ. Just give her some context and let's connect on LinkedIn. It's a simple way of including that personalized note, and it's going to go a lot way to get those invitations accepted. So Jan, this has been a delight 3 times in. I hope this brings more people to the Accountability Lab, because I can't tell you enough how much this has pulled me out of that dark place that I was starting to get into. and I'm a pretty positive person, so this is affecting all of us. We're in the midst of a very traumatic experience, this pandemic, whether you've been affected directly, you know somebody who's been affected. We're all in this hunkering down at home. All of our businesses have been impacted in some way. Some people have lost their jobs, their companies. But we are also not around people, and this is having a huge emotional effect. So what I love about the lab is it's reconnecting me with people, and it's pulling me out of that dark place. So on behalf of all the lab partners, Jan, I just want to say thank you so much for helping.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being on here today, Jan. So what's next on your agenda for today? What are you doing after we're done off the call here?
I suppose I better write those bloody Christmas cards that's on my list. Yikes.
There you go. Well, I want to thank all of the lab partners. We had so many people that were on the call with us here today, and we'll see you guys on again in the morning at 6:30 a.m. Now you've got our group at 6:30. The next group is at 7:07.
Yes.
And then the third group is 7:37, right?
Yeah. The Pacific time, the West Coast group starts January 4th.
Okay, so the other ones will be open. So they can message you on LinkedIn if they want info, or they can go to your website and figure that out, right? All right, awesome. All right, guys, well, stay safe and stay healthy. Jan, I will see you bright and early in the morning. We will look just as glorious as we do now, right? No, we'll look a little different.
No, we won't.
But we'll have fun. That's the important thing, right?
We will.
All right, guys. Thanks again for watching. Before you leave, if you could do me one quick favor, and that is if you enjoyed the conversation, leave a comment below for Jan. Let her know how awesome this was, because I am always inspired by her. I always learn new things, and I want her to hear it from you guys as well. And then if you found this video helpful, after you're done watching, go back and find the video and click to share it. Share it on your LinkedIn. That counts as your post for today. Maybe message it to someone who you know is struggling right now with motivation and just getting their day started. Maybe there's something in the video here that can help them out. So I encourage you to share that along. And look for more of these LinkedIn Lives coming up in the future. And we will see you around. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Now I got to find I have a little outro video here. So I'm going to find this. Give me just a second. Here we go.